This is my International 756 diesel. The object today is to fix a couple of coolant leaks where this coolant manifold mounts to the head. It leaks at a few of the flanges, so I've got new gaskets, so we're going to try to get that taken care of. I guess exhaust manifold is going to have to come off, coolant manifold, clean everything up, install the new gaskets, see if that takes care of it. This hose clamp here, it goes from the manifold to the thermostat housing. All right, so let's see how many manifold studs we can snap. Okay. Yeah, I don't think this has been on here very long. I've only owned this tractor for, year and a half. And the guy I bought it from, it actually installed this engine. This isn't the original engine. This came out of, I think, a 315 combine. So I guess a lot of these fasteners maybe haven't had enough time to lock up. Crankcase breather is going to have to come off as well. And ideally, we'll leave the gasket intact, but if not, I'll make one. Okay. Perfect. The kid I bought the tractor from said that well, he was aware of the coolant leaks there, and it was due to the fact that the flanges, this is aluminum, the flanges had some pitting. And he had another coolant manifold that he sent with me, but I was just looking at it, and this area up here is not the same, so I don't think that one is going to fit. That might be the one that belongs to the combine. Like I said, this engine came out of a combine, so we'll take a look at the flanges on that and see how corroded they are. And I don't know, maybe I'll have to, I hate to do it, but maybe I'll have to smear some JB Weld on there and sand them flat. Probably wouldn't hurt to hit this thing with some engine degreaser and hose it off before I put the hood back on. have a magnetic tray somewhere around. I should probably figure out where I put that. Maybe use it. I don't usually work in this barn. I usually, well, I'm working here now so I can be inside. This won't fit in the other building, but I typically work out in the driveway if it's something that doesn't fit indoors, but it's raining out. So we're in the old draft horse barn. By our estimates, this building was constructed in about 1840 by my ancestors. Well, I'm 7th generation here, but it hasn't been a working farm since, I'd say the mid-1950s. I guess my great-grandfather Roy died of stomach cancer in '53, and my grandfather was in the Pacific Northwest waiting for orders to go to Korea, and my great-grandma Carolyn wrote a letter to the government requesting that he be shipped home to take care of the farm after great-grandpa Roy passed away. And so we did that for a couple of years, but ended up going to school for an engineering degree. And then he worked at the, so we're in north central Pennsylvania, not too far from the New York border. So he worked at the glass factory in Corning, New York, if you've ever heard of Corningware. He worked there for a little while and then eventually got a job. Uh-oh. That one feels goofy. Eventually got a job as an engineer with Xerox in Webster, New York, which is the suburb of Rochester. And that's where I grew up. This is my mom's side of the family, this property down here. So my grandfather got that job at Xerox, raised his family just outside of Rochester there, and that's how my mother and father met. That's where my dad was raised, Webster, New York. So eventually, the late 80s, Grandpa Gary retired from Xerox and moved here full-time. And his plan was to, well, I believe his plan was to run a hobby farm. He had a sugar house and he made maple syrup and he had bee boxes. He kept honeybees. He had a little orchard, and well, long story short, he got cancer of the liver and died 2 years after retirement, so he wasn't able to enjoy this place for very long. And none of his plans came to fruition, so that's really unfortunate. That was, as it was January of 90 when he died, so I was going on 5 years old. I was born in August of '85. But yeah, this, up until the mid-50s, this was quite a dairy. And then getting back to the barn, there used to be 2 barns here. The other one was blown down in a windstorm. Or actually, I guess it was a tornado, which is uncommon for this part of the country, but yeah, it pretty much ripped the whole roof right off and set it down in the yard. And then, well, some neighbors cleaned that up or helped clean it up in exchange for some of the good timbers from that building. And they were actually used to repair some other barns not far from here, but you know, anything that was usable was picked clean and the rest of the structure was left to rot. And so there's a foundation up there. That was the old the old cow barn where they did the milking, and the one we're in right now, this was a draft horse barn. They had a team of draft horses before they mechanized. All right, so you have all the fasteners off of that manifold. It should pull right off there. There goes a washer. And then pull it out of that piece of hose. Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't... Oh, I see. So I don't know if that's what he was talking about. I mean, there's a little bit of pitting, but man, you would think with new gaskets and a little sealer that wouldn't leak, but you know what? I think I'm not going to use RTV. I'm going to use Permatex High Tech. We're going to shellac those gaskets old school and stick them on there. But first, we're going to clean this up really good. All right, time for the wire wheel, I think. Spots that I just couldn't get into. All right, so I think I've got this cleaned up good enough. Just gonna paint one side of the gaskets with some of this High Tech. Okay. Paint up the other side. Let it sit for just a minute and then throw it on. Okay, that can tack up for just a minute and we'll put her back on. All right. Okay. I think the barn swallows are angry. They don't appreciate my company. Okay. When you watch me take this apart, in my infinite wisdom, I spun the nipple out with the probe in it and probably twisted the filament for the temperature gauge, and you know, that was the wrong thing to do, because the nut for the filament that threads into the nipple will spin independently of the filament, and well, in any case, in all likelihood, I've broken that. Now the temperature gauge won't work, but we'll see what happens. So, coolant manifold's back on. Time for the exhaust manifold and exhaust manifold gaskets. 6 separate gaskets. And they're just a steel gasket. And some of these have studs and some of them don't. So it's going to be a neat trick getting a couple of them in there while holding the manifold in. Well, you know what I'm trying to say. I did clean the manifold flange up with the wire wheel. So I suppose let's get the manifold on a couple of these studs. And I won't push it all the way back, so I have, yeah, I don't know if it's going to want to stay. You don't want this falling on the floor, breaking. And we'll see if I can fish these last 2 gaskets back there. Okay, that can't fall off on me, so that one bolt I had just fell down inside the freaking... Oh yeah, I'm never getting that back. Love it. Be furious by the time we're done here. Gotcha. All right, let's fill this thing up with coolant and see what happens. see any leaks yet, but we'll probably have to sit for a while for me to really be able to tell. So I'm gonna call it fixed for now. Still have that one exhaust flange gasket to take care of, and I'd like to get the proper fasteners on that exhaust manifold. But other than that, I'm gonna call it fixed for the moment. So if you thought that was entertaining, or at least better than a root canal, subscribe. There'll be more to come.